Welcome back. Got a quick question for you guys out there. What do you do when you have a GX4 and you lose confidence in it because of the trigger issue? Now for me, in the brief time that I've had this GX4, I ran into a couple issues that one of which I couldn't get past. First one was this mag release button. This button was extremely easy to bump when I first got it, and you'd drop the mag out just brushing across it. Too sensitive for me. So I fixed that myself. I ordered an extra part and sanded it all down so that it was contoured to the gun so I didn't accidentally bump it. So it's still easy to push, still easy to drop the mag, but it's not so pronounced that I bump it accidentally. So that was my solution to that. But the trigger issue, I don't know how to get past that. Now, I guess you could say it's a mental block for me because I have not had this malfunction in normal fire. So just running this down at the range, it's worked. Honestly, it's worked flawlessly. I haven't had a problem with it. But I've only got about 60 rounds through it, so not much to test on. But in dry fire testing, I have been able to get the dead trigger malfunction out of it just by dry firing it and pushing the trigger to the side. So as everybody's described before, or many people have described before, if you get your pad of your finger on one side of this and you're just pulling the trigger back at an angle, once in a while when you pull the trigger back at an angle, you cycle the slide, you let the trigger go, you'll hear a reset, but you'll have a dead trigger. In this case, I don't. You got a live trigger, which is good. But once in a while, it'll be dead. You'll hear that reset when you let off the trigger. So the trigger itself resets, but the issue is that the striker isn't on the sear. So the sear from the trigger bar, the sear that the trigger bar actuates is not engaged with the striker sear, so you get a dead trigger, even though you'll hear the click when you let off of the trigger. None of that matters because the striker's not engaged with the trigger sear. So anyway, my confidence is shaken in this firearm, and it's unfortunate because, again, I have not had this issue in firing it at the range. It's just a confidence issue in this firearm. So what do you do? I could send it back to Taurus for an issue that they may or may not be able to reproduce. Got to admit, it's kind of an unusual situation to have to push the trigger off to the side and have to do that. In my case, in this example, I probably have to do that 20 or 30 times, maybe 50 or 60 times before I can get it to malfunction. I don't have any confidence that Taurus is going to go through that kind of testing on this single firearm. So I'm not real excited about the idea of sending it back to them. I want it fixed, but I just don't think they're going to fix it. So up to this point, I've decided that I'm not sending it back to them at this time. The responsibility that I take on with that is now I can't blame Taurus for the issue with this because I'm not willing to give them the opportunity to fix it. So what to do? So here's what I did. So I went ahead and picked up a SIG P365. That was my solution. It was an expensive solution, but that was my solution. Now, I don't have any confidence in this firearm yet either because it hasn't been to the range. I already have a little bit of concerns about this because as you cycle the slide, let me drop the mag, show that it's clear. There you go, empty chamber, empty mag well. As you cycle the slide, there's a hitch to it right at the beginning as the barrel's supposed to drop. It doesn't run just completely smooth like most of my other guns. Some of the ones that are like 80%ers, they have a similar hitch right at the beginning. But yeah, I don't know if that's going to be an issue or not. So if you push right on the barrel, it does unlock fairly easily. You do still feel that little hitch in it as the barrel drops. But yeah, I don't know. It's untested. It may run just fine. I certainly hope it does. I don't need another gun with a problem. But that was my solution. I was very seriously considering Springfield Hellcat. But as it turns out, when I went to my local gun store that I like to go to, they had a base model Hellcat with the optic cut, which is what I was looking for, and they had this with the optic cut. But the difference was the Hellcat was a little bit more money. I think it was only about like $20 more. Okay, so it's still kind of a wash, right? Get the Hellcat, get the SIG P365, either way. But this guy was a tac pack, and the Hellcat was just the gun with, I think, whatever the standard loadout is. I think it's 2 magazines. But the tac pack with this made it worth it for me to go ahead and get this one. So the tac pack on this comes with 3 12-round magazines, a holster that I'm never going to use. They give you some goofy plastic holster that can be converted from inside the waistband to outside the waistband with some little plastic snap-on clips. It's really goofy. Not worth using, trust me. So that's it. I think that's basically it that comes in the box. So you get a plastic box, which I think you get with any of these SIG P365s. But the mags for these go for, I don't know, 40 to 50 bucks, something like that. I think MSRP is even more for the magazines. I've been able to find magazines online for about 40 bucks, maybe a little bit more. Had to hunt around a little while to find a place that would do free shipping with magazines that were around $40, but I did find a good deal. I think I found that on AIM Surplus, if anybody else is in the market for SIG P365 magazines. So I needed a couple extra because it only comes with the 12-round magazines. It comes with 3 12-round magazines. I want a flush base plate to carry with. So I want a 10-round magazine with a flush base plate. And so I got a couple of those from AIM Surplus. They're on the way still. I just ordered them yesterday. So if they had the Gear Up package for the Springfield Hellcat, I might have gotten that instead. But since they only had the tac pack versus just a plain Jane Hellcat, I went with the SIG and the tac pack. Now, for those out there that don't want anything to do with Springfield because they're past political drama, I guess I'm just going to throw in my 2 cents here that I don't think it does the Second Amendment community or just the overall firearms owner community any good to boycott a company like Springfield until they're out of business. Springfield apologized for what they had done, their mistake. They claim it was lack of communication. They weren't aware of what the lobbying organization was doing, what they were negotiating. But I think most people don't believe that. I don't really believe it. But I don't believe much of what anybody says, to tell you the truth, until I can verify it. Especially from politicians and executives and companies. But the fact of the matter is they did apologize. They are supportive of Second Amendment organizations and issues that come up. And it's been 6 years. What do people want out of Springfield in order to lift this stigma, to stop the hate against their company? Does everybody have to be fired that was associated with that? That might be a solution. I don't think they're going to do that. So, if they don't do that, are you only going to be satisfied when those people die eventually or quit or the company goes out of business? If you're that hardline, then I guess good for you. Good for you. I don't think that's appropriate. I think a public apology, which is what they gave, and a good long history of not having issues reoccur, I think that's good enough. And for me, 6 years is enough. Honestly, I would have said a couple years was enough. A year of boycotting Springfield, probably not enough. 2 years? Okay, I'm into that. 3, 4, 5 years? I think you're pushing it. So we're 6 years out now. I got nothing against Springfield. I am wary of what they may or may not do in the future, but I'm wary of what all these gun companies are going to do in the future. I'm not particularly fond that companies like Springfield, SIG, Smith & Wesson, there's probably a whole bunch of others that cater heavily to law enforcement and military. I don't think that's right. Okay? In the climate that we have today with all the anti-gun propaganda that's going around, I don't want to be treated as some kind of second-class customer because I'm not law enforcement and I'm not military. I find that pretty irritating. I can almost get behind the favoritism that they give to military. I can almost get behind that because I want to support veterans, but I also don't like the classism that it basically creates when you do things like that. When you have deeper discounts for law enforcement and military, when you they'll have exclusives. They'll come out with a gun and they'll offer it to military and law enforcement first. But anyway, that's my own personal issue to deal with. I just think I think they've done what they needed to do, and I think enough time has passed. So if you're interested in getting a Hellcat or any other Springfield product and you think it's the right product for you, you have my blessing to go out and buy a Springfield product. I don't think you're anti-2A because you're buying from a company that made a mistake 6 years ago. The other negative against Springfield is their guns are made in Croatia. a bunch of plastic guns made in Croatia. I think Yankee commented on this recently, how they're made in Croatia. And yes, they are. So if you got a problem with guns made in Croatia, how are you about guns made in Brazil? So this will say Bainbridge, Georgia on it, but it also says made in Brazil. So I don't know the story behind that. I don't know if does Taurus make these make the parts in Brazil and they're assembled in Georgia? Are they just imported through Georgia from Brazil and then sold to the American citizens? I don't know. Do you have a problem with Brazil? I don't know. I don't particularly have a problem with Croatia. I don't know anything about Croatia, to tell you the truth. So I don't consider that a downside. Shoot, I'd buy it if it was made in Russia. And we're threatening to... Some would say we're basically at war with Russia. We're in some kind of proxy war right now with Russia. I'd like to have a Russian handgun. That would be great. Actually, if we could buy all the Russian guns, that would be best. Let's just buy every gun that they've got. Peace through buying all their guns. Buy all their ammo too. I can't afford that. I'm sure the Fed can just print up more money and we could do it that way. So there you go. If you want to go buy a Springfield, go for it. The only reason I didn't buy a Springfield is because I thought this was a better deal. Honestly, it was the Hellcat was going to be my first pick, but I was expecting them to have the Gear Up pack. To me, it sounded like the Gear Up pack was something you had to order, basically, from Springfield. They have a website where you can plug in, where you purchased your gun or something. So if you purchase the right product, they'll send you out the Gear Up pack. I kind of didn't want that. I wanted to have it right then and there if it was possible, and my gun store happened to have a tack pack for the SIG and did not have the Gear Up pack for the Springfield. So I went SIG. So anyway, that's I guess that's it. Stay safe out there, guys. Bye.